A very dynamic storm system is going to be impacting heavily populated areas over the next 48 hours. We've been tracking this storm system literally for about a week now, and now it is getting closer with a significant trough that will be diving in across the areas of the Southwest. Out ahead of it, the air mass is going to be splitting in the overnight hours. That is a quick spin up tornado concern within Oklahoma and Texas. But to the northwest of there, we'll be having a surface low that will be developing with colder air coming in from the northwest. In fact, we've already got winter storm warnings and watches in place, and even blizzard warnings across areas of the Central Plains. But yes, out ahead of it, the tornado threat with these significant storms that will be racing over 50 miles an hour in the overnight continue to push eastbound, getting into the daytime tomorrow with a significant tornado threat across the southeast, and that will only continue to push eastbound heading into Wednesday morning, eventually heading back into the Carolinas with their own severe storm threat. So yes, right now the National Weather Service hazard map is lit up across the board. And right now it's mostly wind watches and warnings with a very windy storm system impacting multiple states. And then the cold side of the storm has those, in fact, blizzard warnings for areas of eastern Colorado, western Kansas, as well as into western areas of Nebraska. Winter storm watches in place extending into Iowa, back into southern portions of Minnesota, getting into Wisconsin. There is the windy side of the storm across the Central Plains, as the air mass will be splitting in the upper areas of the atmosphere. And that just continues into the southeast and eventually heading in off the east coast as we head into Wednesday morning. But it all gets going about midnight tonight. So yes, there is the dry line, and you can see that with the very low extensive dew points, an untapped area that it's not going to get any rain where they desperately need it. And that's why we do have the elevated fire concerns on the backside and critical fire danger heading into Tuesday, with very heavy winds going to be impacting those areas. But out ahead of it, it's completely the opposite of, with a very soupy air mass with the south wind coming in from the Gulf. There's dew points in the mid 60s. Yes, folks, that is highly unusual for the first week of March. And that's concerning, especially with the dynamic system, with all that moisture coming into play, feeding into those storms, and those 60s surge all the way into the Oklahoma City region, even the mid 50s getting there into Kansas. So that's why the Storm Prediction Center has increased their tornado threat within the overnight hours. So right now we have that 2% probability of a tornado, a quick spin up tornado. This will be a broken squall line with these QLCS type tornadoes along the leading edge of this squall line. These are very quick movers. We're talking 50 miles an hour plus at times. And that's when we could be seeing some brief isolated spin up tornadoes on the leading edge. So definitely concerning, because it's going to be coming in an overnight threat. So we're talking Oklahoma City towards the midnight to 2 o'clock in the morning time frame. You get back into the Dallas region, we're talking 3 to 7 a.m. time frame. And that will only push out of Dallas and extend into East Texas heading into your Tuesday morning, and then intensify again as we head into Tuesday afternoon across the southeast. But I do have a service that I partnered with, which is WeatherCall NexGen. This is a very life-saving, valuable service. You actually get a phone call from me whenever your address is within that warning area in that polygon. So we do have about 6 different warnings you'll get warned for. So severe thunderstorm warnings, tornado emergencies, flash flood warnings, high wind events. You will get a phone call, text, and email showing you exactly within seconds within that warning issue. So you, in fact, can take shelter. All that for only $15 a year. So if you'd like to sign up for the service, I'll have the link in the description below. So yes, things get going into the overnight hours. Here's about 4 o'clock tomorrow morning. Look at this nasty squall line draped across Kansas, getting into Oklahoma City, back into the Dallas region. That's when we could have those quick spin up tornadoes in the overnight. Some large hail associated with it, but this is definitely a damaging wind threat, and of just a widespread damaging wind threat. So right now it's definitely time to secure loose objects across the board, really from the central plains all the way into the southeast. And there's the cold side of the storm with the blue. That is your snow that's on the backside, the colder side that's coming in from the northwest. So likely some heavier snows flying within the Colorado region, back into eastern eastern areas of Colorado, back into areas of Nebraska, Kansas. That's where in fact we have some of those blizzard warnings in taking effect. So look how fast it moves, folks. This is about 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning. It's basically out of Dallas already. It's out of Oklahoma. Now it's into far east Texas, getting into the Shreveport vicinity, getting into Arkansas, back into areas of Missouri. There's the cold side of the storm. And of course, it's just all rain into portions of Illinois. So yes, significant threat is on the way, especially with these upper level winds. I mean, look at that. That's 118 knots. Those winds are cranking about 15 to 17,000 feet up in the atmosphere and down towards the surface. About 5,000 feet, we're looking at about an 83 knots. So that's a significant change in direction, and the air mass splitting at the lower levels. Deeply concerned with a lot of shear rotating, and those would likely lower to possible tornadoes, even strong tornadoes, into the daytime hours tomorrow as we head into Arkansas, Louisiana, back into Mississippi. Look at all the water vapor, the extreme moisture content that will feed into once they tap into those waters further south. Man, we could be looking at some pretty intense activity going into Louisiana, back into Arkansas, getting into Mississippi, western Tennessee, extending into Missouri. Look at the low pressure center, likely where it's going to be. The winds coming back on the downside of the downsloping winds on the backside of this system, and the snow is just going to be cranking right around the deformation zone, with some banding taking shape and some heavier snowfalls as this lifts off to the northeast. But yes, out ahead of it, this is deeply concerning with a widespread tornado threat. This is definitely looks to be a significant severe weather outbreak with numerous tornadoes, unfortunately, potential with that hatch risk. That means this area is favorable for getting some of those EF2 type tornadoes, or possibly even stronger, towards the Shreveport vicinity, back into the Jackson region, further south into Louisiana. But even a 5%, definitely don't let your guard down. And a more widespread back into Little Rock, into Lake Charles, getting into New Orleans, back into the Mobile vicinity. And then even the 2%, definitely can't even let your guard down there. It's just a very significant dynamic system coming out of the Tulsa area, up here towards Missouri, back into Springfield. That extends into the Memphis region, getting later during the day into the evening time frame, into Birmingham, back into Montgomery with the fast moving system. There's 4 o'clock, folks. So yeah, we're talking it's west of Oklahoma City around midnight tonight, and it's already cranking, and the leading edge is in Mississippi. That tells you how fast this system will be moving. You have little to no warning with this system. That's why you got to keep eyes to the sky and have all the warnings and watches in all different ways to receive weather warnings, so you can take shelter immediately with this dangerous storm system that will be racing across to the east. And that just extends into the overnight. This is likely about 1 o'clock in the morning now as we head into Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. Now we're talking areas into Atlanta region, getting into Georgia, extending into the Carolinas, with some heavier storms into areas of eastern Kentucky. There's the snow on the backside flying into Kansas, into Iowa, eventually heading into Minnesota and back into Wisconsin, at least the northern side of Wisconsin. And then getting into Wednesday, there's a threat, definitely not as significant to what we're going to be seeing for the first 24 hours, but that second 24 hours is still pretty bumpy. And still, don't let your guard down This is likely going to be more of a damaging wind threat with the squall line with moving across, eventually heading into Tallahassee, back into Jacksonville, into Charleston region, Columbia, into the Charlotte area, Raleigh, folks in Norfolk. Definitely be on high alert for severe storms. There's what the radar potentially could look like into Wednesday morning. So this is going to be flying, folks. Extremely fast moving system. At some point, you're probably going to be seeing severe thunderstorms moving at 65 miles an hour. That's what we're talking about, folks. So yeah, some 40, started off in the 40 ranging, getting into 50, 60, probably peaking at 65 mile per hour movement, as this just is going to be screaming across from west to east. And what's concerning is the helicity tracks, right? So this is the latest update on the latest high resolution guidance. And right now we've got that potential that is going to originating in Kansas, back into Oklahoma, extending into the Dallas area, back into the southeast. And so this is where you could have the most upward rising motion air. This is typically a hint of, you know, some hail and definitely some tornadic activity, and definitely some more elevated areas from Oklahoma within the Dallas area. So this is a little bit concerning, actually a little bit more bullish than what the Storm Prediction Center, maybe even the 5%. So this could probably increase possibly even to a 10% if some of these parameters still continue to start to come together as what it's looking like on some of the high resolution guidance. But man, it's going to be just a windy setup. This is a 48-hour time span from essentially this morning all the way to Wednesday morning, as the storm system really starts getting going overnight tonight. Some of these winds are really going to be cranking 40, 50, 60, if you're of course, you know, 70, 80, maybe even peaking out. Look at that, 101 miles an hour in some of these isolated supercells. So yes, very intense line of thunderstorms that are going to be racing across the central and southern plains into the southeast, and eventually heading in off the east coast. And there's your precipitation, which isn't like crazy amounts, but just because of the fast progression movement of these systems. So yes, some of these totals where it kind of more or less goes net neutral tilted could pick up some couple inches of rainfall, but where it's more progressive, it's not going to be in an area over any extended period of time. So flash flooding is not deeply concerning with this system. It's mainly the straight line wind event, some larger hail, but of course the tornadic activity that likely could unfold with this system. And of course you got the cold side of the storm as well, with some of that colder air coming in from the northwest. We still get cold fronts in March. You could still get cold, and we're still going to get some snowstorms as well, especially there in Colorado. That's your snowiest time of the year. So definitely not that unusual to see snow events happening up there for them, back into Kansas, as well as into Nebraska, getting into Iowa, as well as into areas of Wisconsin. But we do have a little of a decent sized cold front that will be coming in. We'll have a cold front that comes in that Tuesday and Wednesday morning with this system coming in, but then we'll have a stronger cold front extending into the weekend, and some of these temperatures will drop, you know, back into the 40s and 50s for highs, all the way in the deep south, as we'll have a little blast of winter still, if you will, for areas across the south. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch the next update. Wire protect you before and out the storm.